Sorry, City Council regular meeting call to order and announce a quorum is present. We would please stand for our invocation. And at this time, I would like for us just to have a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We have three proclamations we're going to read this evening for you. The first one is National Day of Service and Remembrance. Whereas on September 11, 2001, terrorists hijacked and then flew commercial airplanes into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York, causing both of them to collapse, and the Pentagon in Washington inflicting severe damage. A fourth terrorist hijacked plane crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, when passengers who became aware of the attacks attempted to take the plane back. And whereas the day and the days that followed, our country was united. Americans, no matter race, background, or religion, were all united in prayer and with the resolve to help the families of victims and first responders who were never given the opportunity to live out their full lives. And whereas on Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance, we honor every life that was taken too soon. We honor the first responders, firefighters, law enforcement officers, emergency workers, and service members who answered the call of duty, and the brave civilians who rushed into action to save lives that day. Their courage embodies the American spirit and resilience, and their heroism continues to inspire new generations of Americans. And whereas it is our sacred duty to never forget the events that transpired on that painful day in our country's history, so future generations can be reminded that when Americans from all walks of life unite together, we are stronger as a country. Now, therefore, I, Emily Hill, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Manor, Texas, and on behalf of the Mayor and City Council, do hereby proclaim Monday, September 11, 2023 as National Day of Service and Remembrance, 9/11 Day, in the City of Manor, and call upon all citizens to observe this day with appropriate ceremonies and activities, including remembrance services, and to observe a moment of silence beginning at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time to honor the innocent victims who perished as a result of the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Manor to be affixed this 6th day of September of 2023. I would like to present this to our Manor Police Department. Our next proclamation is National Voter Registration Day. Whereas the National Association of Secretaries of State established the first National Voter Registration Day on September 25th, 2012. And whereas every year millions of Americans find themselves unable to vote because they missed the registration deadline, don't update their registration, or aren't sure how to register. And whereas on Tuesday, September 19, volunteers and organizations from all over the country will hit the streets in a single day of coordinated field, technology, and media efforts. And whereas National Voter Registration Day seeks to create broad awareness of voter registration opportunities to reach tens of thousands of voters who may not register otherwise. And whereas National Voter Registration Day is a day of civic unity, it's an opportunity to set aside differences, enjoy the rights and opportunities we all share as Americans, and celebrate our democracy. Now, therefore, I, Emily Hill, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Manor, Texas, and on behalf of the Mayor and City Council, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, September 19th, 2023 as National Voter Registration in the City of Manor, and encourage all citizens to register to vote and make your voices heard and vote count. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the City of Manor on the 6th day of September, 2023. I'd like to present this to our city manager, Mr. Scott Moore. Okay, one more proclamation. Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas the Hispanic Heritage Observance began in 1968 as Hispanic Heritage Week under President Lyndon Johnson and was expanded by President Ronald Reagan in 1988. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates the accomplishments of Hispanic Americans who have enriched our culture and society and helped make America into the incredible country it is today. And whereas Hispanic American men and women embody the American values of devotion to faith and family, hard work, and patriotism through their countless contributions as leaders, innovators, entrepreneurs, and members of our armed forces. And whereas Hispanics have enhanced and shaped our national character with centuries old traditions that reflect the multi ethnic and multicultural customs of their communities, while adding their distinct and dynamic perspectives to the story of our country. And whereas September 15th through October 15th is recognized as National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is time to honor the invaluable ways Hispanics contribute to our common goals, celebrate their diverse cultures, and to work towards a stronger, more inclusive, and more prosperous society for all. And whereas Hispanic Americans represent a significant and fast growing demographic of the City of Manor, we honor the invaluable ways they contribute to our great city. Now, therefore, I, Emily Hill, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Manor, Texas, and on behalf of the Mayor and City Council, do hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th, 2023 as Hispanic Heritage Month in the City of Manor, and encourage all citizens to learn more about those of Hispanic heritage and to observe this month with appropriate programs and activities. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Manor to be affixed the 6th day of September 2023. And I'd like to present this to anyone who'd like to be in the picture, but definitely City Council for sure, and then our city staff as well. Okay. That's done. Okay, public comments, non-agenda item public comments, which is the white card. Comments will be taken from the audience and on agenda related topics for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. Agenda item public comments on the yellow card. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda and agenda items combined for a length of time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items, except for public hearings. Comments on public hearing items must be made when the item comes before the council and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. No action or discussion may be taken by the city council during public comments on non-agenda items. To address the city council, please complete the white yellow form prior to any council meeting, okay? First, let's bring up Miss Ruth.
Everybody, how y'all doing? Hello, I'm Ruth Taylor Bisco at that. Well, my concern is tonight is to talk about Art Park. As you know, I work with the seniors here in Manor, and the park here is so close to the apartments where they live. So I was hoping and thinking that we can get something there to really entertain the seniors, as far as maybe some games or something other than the pictures on the wall and the whatever that's not there. So that's why I'm here, to see if we can get some activities added. Am I saying it right? Art, is it Art? Art Park.
Art Park.
Yes. So we're there Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, and I plan to take them on walks to the park. But we were there last week, and they lost interest because there was nothing there. So hopefully, by me speaking up tonight, we can take some action and getting something other than what's already there. My 5 minutes up.
You still had some time.
Well,
if
I want to elaborate on just getting something at the park for maybe some games. You know what I'm talking about. Something to entertain the seniors other than what's already there. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Okay, next we have Mr. Battle. Mr. Battle, you will have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Battle, also known as Robert Bataille. If people are watching and want to really learn what's going on in the city, they should visit my Facebook group called Manor Community Coalition. There's lots of good stuff there. Once again, here you guys are doing proclamations that are a bunch of empty words that don't do a dang thing for anybody. You do Hispanic heritage, you can't even translate the agendas into Spanish. You know, Manor ISD has 130 languages there. We have one. Austin Parks and Recs has 133. We have one. So don't tell me you love the Spanish people. You don't do a damn thing for them. You're doing nothing for the Spanish people that are at the cemetery. Nothing. Art Park is an empty parking lot. So speaking of parks, Anthony Moreno is on the park committee. He lives at 12921 Fireside Chat Street in Presidential Meadows. And I'd like to see that in the minutes, please, Yuvia. Not just Robert gave an address. I would like to see his address in there like you put mine in there every damn week because you don't give a crap about anybody's
Okay,
privacy.
Mr. Battle.
Yes, ma'am?
So there's a point of order here.
What's
Okay,
that?
so you can't direct specifically a specific council member and their address. Okay? So,
Why is that?
well, it's just part of point of order. So if you
I
want to
don't think that's correct, ma'am.
if you want to stick to your current
This is
flow,
my
please
comments.
do so. Okay? Just have respect for the audience.
I'd like you to have respect about my privacy and my
as
address,
well.
please.
Okay? So I'm only going to say that one time, or you can be seated. Okay?
Did that take up my time, by the way?
I'm going to give you your time.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, now here's another example of how this city does useless things. I got this in the mail. A notice of a proposed hearing to amend zoning. But nothing with the guts, nothing to show what the amendments are. This is Scott Dunlap's way of pretending he's doing something and doing nothing. This should be held off and you should send out the amendments so people can review them. Did you guys learn what historic district means yet? Old Manor is a historic district protected in our codes. We don't want 95 townhomes on top of graves by the cemetery. We don't want 400 apartments by the Lions Club. One of our members is with the Lions Club. I can't believe she has said nothing about this. Art Park is one of the parks that's not even on the website. Can I address the city manager? I guess not. How come we can't even get our parks on the website? We have 3 IT people and we can't even get the parks on the website. Art Park needs to have activities, shuffleboard, barbecue pits, darts, concerts. I've done a parks plan that has lots of stuff in there. And in there, among other things, or actually, let me go back more in order. You have in there compensation for council. Of course, it's utterly absurd that I get 5 minutes and I want to talk about a $20 million budget and 10 other things. Compensation for council is something that's very important to me because I think you need to start understanding this is a job. You guys treat this like it's a little bake sale. You guys should be making, I think, $40,000 a year, and it should be during the daytime. You need to not take another daytime job over like 10 or 15 hours during the week. It should go back to 2-year terms. We need to get people in here that want to do their homework and do their jobs.
You have 1 minute.
Okay, let's talk about the picket fences. I painted a fence there, a picket. If you had any respect for artists, you find the artists that did the paintings, you bring them back, and you have them do their work. I don't want anybody to touch my picket fence painting. You understand? I don't want anybody to paint that except for me. I think we should pay these artists $75 per picket. The big problem there is ultraviolet light. We need a shade structure or we're going to be doing the same damn thing in 2 years. And I would like to ask, since this is going to be coming up, and of course, no one's going to remember this, but in case you do, there's a sentence in there about talking that invokes the HOT taxes. And the Arts Council didn't want to ask them about something. It's an incomplete sentence. So if we can get that answered during that agenda item, what's the problem with using
Time's
HOT
up, Mr.
funds?
Battle.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. And thanks for letting me have so
Thank you.
much time.
Okay, we have item A, payment inventory management report.
And there's a presentation. Yes, let's go and get a clicker.
Can you state your name? Sorry.
Yes, my name is Nikki Conley with GBA, and I am the engineer of record for the update on the report. So this is a report that is an update from the fiscal year 2021 report. And so, advance. So in general, this is, this data was collected in December of 2022 through a video collection process where we drive all the streets of Manor. There are approximately 62 center miles of roadway in Manor that are city property, that are city maintained. And we analyze that and we come up with a update to the recommendations that were from the 2021 report. The recommendations in the 2022 report are not linear to the 2021 report. There's a couple of things that are explained in the report as to why that is the case. But this report includes a recommendation for 15 streets to be mill and overlaid and additional 14 streets to be reconstructed. The differentiation there has to do with their rating. That was during that December video drive-through of all the roads. We did an analysis of their condition and came up with a kind of a recommendations list, which I will go through. At the bottom, you will notice the combined budget for the 2023 projects is 2.3 million. Forward. All right. So this is a map of what is the results of the video drive-through. So you will notice there's a lot of green, which is good. The previous year, the 2021 year, the overall system was rated at 69.3. And then based upon there being some new lane miles and there being improvements in between the 2021 and the 2022 assessment, the system was upgraded to a 89.1. And you will notice that the sections which are less than green, which are the orange and yellow and red sections, those are mostly south of 290, and they are around the downtown area. So we're going to zoom in there. So there are a couple of parts to our recommendations. Our recommendations include both the full reconstruction, mill and overlay, and also targeting maintenance for entire neighborhoods. So the red sections are the entire neighborhoods that we suggested for targeting with some recommendations of fog seal. These are to reduce the decline of that pavement condition. And you will notice the blue and the purple lines are the segments which we recommended for either a mill and overlay or a full reconstruction. So for mill and overlay, as I mentioned before, there are 15 segments. They're mostly south of 290. And these segments are kind of what is in the condition that is not quite ready for a full reconstruction, and we can mill off the top couple of inches of pavement and overlay and seal them and preserve them for a little bit longer. The 14 segments that are listed for a full reconstruction, these were determined to need both the base and the pavement to be removed. These segments are considered to be kind of beyond being able to just have maintenance to update them. Until this can happen, there can be maintenance techniques to prevent further decline. But at this time, if it was below a rating of like a 50 or a 60, we recommended them to be fully reconstructed. The report included both the starting from fiscal year 2023, 24, 25, and 26. And so this process will repeat each year. We will continue to do updates This is the 2023 update. And as these recommendations are implemented, we will reassess the streets and determine whether or not our assessments for like a 24 should also be updated. But we assume that there will be a similar number each year, similar length each year. This is approximately 1 mile of each improvement. So approximately 1 mile of full reconstruction, approximately 1 mile of mill and overlay. And we assume approximately that same amount of remediation will be necessary for the upcoming years. Any questions?
I have just one question. I had noticed that there's a section that's kind of close to the railroad tracks. Um does that include the passage through that section by on John Nagel Street?
We would have to do a assessment for that particular detail and stuff because it is a pretty short segment. So we would determine, and it's not as impactful to just add it on or subtract it if it is in good condition. All right, if there are no more questions, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Right. I have a question, Ms. Conley.
Yes, ma'am.
And it just may be regular questions because one was that just with the streets, because if the initial assessment was done last year, but since our drought and our roads could have seen more damage since then, would you guys look into it or like revisit it before you start working on it for this next time just to see if it's like worse? Like if some of them that did the fair but poor,
Okay.
if they moved into the poor, failed, or worse category since then.
So are you asking whether or not if we would change something from a mill and overlay to a full reconstruction if it got worse?
Yes.
That is something that we could assess at the time and would be based upon funding. So full reconstruction is going to eat more into the budget. So the recommendations are based upon kind of the percentages of the budget. So if you are increasing your full reconstruction, that means you're doing less of mill and overlay. So it doesn't mean that it's a no. It just means that something might get bumped off the list and have to move up. So if there's something that's maybe in kind of borderline condition and it could move to the next year, then that would be one that we could say, okay, well, we need to address this one because it does need to happen now because of that. And so we would be working within that bucket of money.
That was exactly what I wanted to know because the other part of it was just knowing how you were going to budget for that, or did we need to prepare for amendments later on because there was going to that would be required be in reconstruction instead of an overlay.
So it is my understanding that the bucket of money we should be working with to increase or decrease our streets. So if projects come out and they are bid well and we are able to fit more in there, then we could increase our streets. If projects are going out and they are high bids, then we would be doing less streets and they'd be rolling over to the next year. So we do this assessment every year and for the next 4 years. And so the December 22 assessment means that we are due late this year, early next year for another assessment and another update.
Thank you. I have one more.
Okay.
Sorry. Just so you don't turn around. One was that without looking at all of these in particular, I know a lot of them are probably residential, but are there any of these streets that that we have on the list that are allow for heavy vehicles to pass through? And with that, after the overlay or after the reconstruction, it would like deteriorate our roads faster, just as a precaution. Like if there's a road that we may need to be more aware of, or just even try to not ban, but discourage heavy vehicles to pass through.
That would definitely be a conversation to have during the design process for whether or not the standard thickness that we are moving forward with needs to be increased to accommodate the actual load. We wouldn't want to reroute your trucks that are using that and pretend like they're going to always do it and stuff. It would be better to actually accommodate the traffic that needs that roadway. And unfortunately, that does eat more into the budget, right? So if you say that this pavement thickness needs to get increased to accommodate the load that are actually using that roadway, then that means that maybe a street has to get bumped off of that list because we have a road that needs a kind of a little bit more effort there. But also, some of the streets that are the heavier arterials are separated out of this report. And that was because of wanting to have longer segments. If you will notice, these are a lot of block segments, and they're in between projects that are either from the 2021 or the 2022. And so there's segments that are in between and not necessarily continuous segments. And a lot of times those arterial roads that are deteriorating are longer segments, and those are separated out of this report to be addressed at separate projects that can have a lot more dedication and a lot more time to those roadway segments.
Thank you. Just to be clear, those streets haven't already been identified, right?
We have worked with the staff and have identified several of those streets, yes. There's a couple of them listed in the report that are kind of designating which ones are separated out and why they're separated out. So if it is like I said, if we're saying that this is a 1 mile segment and there's an entire 1 mile street segment that needs to be done, that's a whole other project. That's also your entire budget and stuff. So these are segments that can be within your $2.3 million budget rather than a Blake Manor Road, which needs to be your like an entire bucket. So yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your work on this.
Anyone else? Other questions?
All right.
Mayor Pro Tem, and just for the record, I know when we get into reconstruction and we can work with Matt and his team, if there's been some water lines repaired in those streets, it would be ideal for us to make sure we identify those areas that have been repaired so we can make a complete repair instead of having a new road and then a water leak. So that's something, I guess, in evaluation, we can make sure the water team is able to give the team a heads up that we've been repairing it. It's going to be obvious when you see patches in those streets, but just make sure if we can coordinate on our end to go ahead and make a complete repair of a 20-foot, 30-foot section of the old pipe, so that way we're going to have a new road, and then months later we're making a repair.
He ends up with a dip, and nobody wants that.
Yes, ma'am. Just something I just want to make sure as we're looking at that.
Right.
Just
and we did identify in the report a couple of streets that are up for some water line work that we state in there that work should be done prior to any reconstruction or mill and overlay, so they're not patches after a freshly reconstructed roadway and stuff, but also identifying when there are locations that need to be shored up a little bit better and stuff whenever we're milling and overlaying or fully reconstructing as well.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
There are a few streets that I know of that have the manhole covers that are a little higher than the road, and yeah, that's like wreaking havoc on the bottom of my car. So if we can make it a little more level where those manhole covers are sticking up, that would be great, and not just throw some asphalt around it, and
Right.
because that once that starts to crack, it starts tearing up your tires when you're going over it constantly. So if we could do that, and also it also wreaks havoc on your alignment on your car when your car is constantly doing this over the roads. So
Well, the upside to hot mix asphalt is that can be integrated in a proper patch. Unfortunately, when it's already cold and you're putting in cold asphalt, those settle differently, and those materials don't necessarily play well whenever you're going through all the cycles of the weather. So it's a lot better to address that on kind of our initial work rather than having to go back and do that patch. So it does give the opportunity to try and fix some of those spots. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Now we'll be moving into our public hearings. Item number 1 is to conduct a public hearing on an ordinance amending the Shadow Glen Plan Unit development and being located at the intersection of Lexington Street and US Highway 290 as well as Shadow Glen Boulevard and US 290, Maynard, Texas. We're actually going to move this one to October 18th. Okay. Number 2, conduct a does that need one? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone the public hearing until October 18th, 2023 City Council regular meeting.
Okay, we have a motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Do I have a second?
I second.
Who wants it? Second by Councilmember Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 2, conduct a public hearing on the FY 2023-2024 proposed annual budget of the City of Maynard, Texas. I'm going to have Lydia come up first.
Good evening, everybody. Before you have the proposed fiscal year budget for budget year 2023-2024. As y'all can recall, we had 2 budget workshops on August 8th and then again on August 10th. These numbers have not changed, and so we'll just go quick overview for them. And obviously, if we have questions, present the proposed budgets presented by myself and Mr. Scott Moore. On here is the verbiage for the proposed tax rate, which we will, I believe it's later on in the agenda to address. Revenue fund. As stated last year, the state of Texas imposes a 6.25 sales and use tax on all retail sales, leases, and rentals of most goods, as well as taxable services. The city of Maynard imposes an additional 2% sales tax to create a maximum combined rate of 8.25. But out of the 8.25, Austin MTA, which is Capital Metro, receives 1% of that sales tax. And Travis County Emergency Services District 12 receives 0.5%. And also for the general fund is the City of Maynard's principal operating fund for essential services and is supported by a variety of revenue sources. Its main contributor is your property ad valorem taxes and sales tax. And then the others is for development services, franchise fee agreements, and then court fines as well. And as the other slide shown, the proposed fiscal year 23-24 budget is predicted on City Council adopting the ad valorem rate of 0.6789. And this would be a lower tax rate than prior year, which was 0.7470. This slide is for in December of 2021, City Council had authorized the issuance of the certificates of obligations for capital improvement programs. The project totaled $6,360,000, and the breakdown is there for between water and wastewater. To give you a quick snapshot to the right, the water projects for the FM 973 12-inch water line, that project has been completed. FM 973 12-inch water line oversizing from a 12-inch to a 16-inch, that also has been completed. We are on to the next project is the Greg Maynor Water Storage Supply ground storage tank and pumps. There was a bid opening, if I'm not mistaken, on August 22nd for that bid. The next project was the US 290 12-inch water line. Surveying has been complete and easement descriptions have been sent to the right-of-way agent. The second part of the for wastewater projects, the FM 973 gravity wastewater line, that project that was completed. Bell Farms lift station expansion that is currently under construction, and the Presidential Glen lift station expansion is also under construction. Any questions on that project? Those bonds? This is the tax notes that were issued in August of 2022. For the projects listed, it was for water, it was for the Greg Lane ground storage tank and pressurization facilities. Also the FM 973 water line. For wastewater, the project was the Cottonwood Wastewater Treatment Plant Phase 3 expansion. And for streets, it was improvement to roadways, including safety feature improvements. For the water project, the status of that for the Greg Lane ground storage tank and pressurization facilities, that is in the preliminary design phase. FM 973 water line, the survey has been completed. They are working on easement descriptions. For the wastewater, Cottonwood Wastewater Treatment Plant Phase 3 expansion, we're currently working with Grant Development Services, who is the grant writing service that we have contracted with, on resubmitting our scope for an EDA grant for funding. The next is the improvement to roadways, including public safety features. Plans were approved for the first half of the project, so it's still in preliminary stage. Any questions on that project or that bond? I'm sorry. The next slide is our historical population. This is as of August 8th. Our current population is 20,359 is our current population. Last year we had done, if I'm not mistaken, we had done I think 20 years. I condensed it down to just to do 10 years. The next slide is for our annual budget. That's a typo on the top part for me. It's supposed to be 2023, 2024. For the general fund expenditures, this is a breakdown of every department that is funded by the general fund. General fund is a primary operating fund for the city of Manor and is utilized to account for all costs traditionally associated with city government. The proposed fiscal year 23-24 annual budget includes total general fund expenditures of $19.7 million. And again, the primary source of income supporting the general fund are property and sales tax. The next slide is going to be a budget highlights. For this year, for staffing, the proposed budget includes full year funding for up to 118 total city employees with only 91 filled positions currently. 115 full-time, 1 part-time person, and 2 police reserve positions. The police reserve position is a not paid position, but the city does include them on their workers' compensation and auto liability insurance. There are 3 staffing changes that occurred in fiscal year 22-23, major budget amendments for both full year funding of new positions and the deletion and reclassification of others. We had requested to unfund 2 social resource specialist positions to fund the emergency management coordinator position and fund the criminal analyst technician. New positions requested for fiscal year 23-24 is 1 meter technician, 2 construction inspectors, and 3 wastewater crewmen. Any question on the staffing? For employee compensation, the city continues to strive to provide appropriate and market competitive compensation for all city employees in order to provide the highest possible level of services. The proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 budget does include the adopted pay scale study that was approved by City Council on August 2nd, 2023, with the recommended title changes. There is a cost of living, also known as COLA, of 3% in base salaries for all full-time positions. In July 2023, the Consumer Price Index had a 4.9 cost of living as of July 2023. And that was provided by the United States Labor Department. Any questions? On to the next slide. Next slide is a overview by departments. For the administration, there is an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. We did increase the right-of-way purchases relating back to the comprehensive plan implementation T3. We also had submitted in for a Laserfish product for internal use for records management. In the streets department, there is an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. The proposed 2023-2024 budget does include a $700,000 investment in street maintenance and improvements. This amount will go towards Blake Manor Road. This will involve full depth repair for portions of the road and mill and overlay. The work will be from the city limits to Lexington, just to give you a better scope of how long that road improvement will be. There is an increase of $100,000 for street repairs, which is relating back to the comprehensive plan implementation T16. There's also an increase of $138,000 for stormwater master plan related back to the comprehensive plan implementation IF3. For development services, anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. Land planning use fiscal analysis relating back to the comprehensive plan implementation LU10. There's an increase in contracted building inspection services, and that is due to a position not currently being filled that we're hoping to fill soon. And also there is an increase for online interactive public portal for city maps that was approved by council. On the next slide, we move to the Parks Department. Anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. Increase to cemetery repairs and maintenance as approved at the City Council meeting on August 2nd, 2023. Increase in engineering services, contracted services under the Comprehensive Plan Implementation PR9. Design ideas for splash pad relating back to Comprehensive Plan Implementation PR24. Design ideas for inclusive park have the park committee have met with 2 vendors as of August 4th, 2023, with a meeting with a 3rd vendor. And this ties back to the Comprehensive Plan Implementation PR22. Grant Development Services is preparing a parks master plan, and grant funding was also increased, and it's relating to Comprehensive Plan Implementation PR 9, 12, 15, 42, and 45. For the court department, there's an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. For the police department, we have an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost, increase to repairs to the current police department building, an increase of 15% for Travis County dispatching services. There's also a new line item for the K9 unit, and there's also a new line item labeled CTRS, which stands for Central Texas Regional SWAT, and that's for our police department's participation. The next department is information technology. We have an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. The next department is economic development services. They have an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost, increase of 18% to the sales tax rebate for Greenview development, increase of contracted services for downtown strategic plan, TERS consulting, downtown facade, grant program incentive, downtown infrastructure short-term incentive, etc. All of these programs are related to the comprehensive plan implementation ED 1, 3, 18, 19, 21, and 22. Community Development Services has an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. Human Resource Department, anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. There's also a new general ledger line item for marketing material. Moving on to Public Works Department, they have an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. There's a request for 2 new positions for for 2 construction inspectors. Also an increase to repair the Miller building for the roof and floor repair. Repairs were originally done back in June of 2015. On the next slide, we move to the water department. They have an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost, increase in right-of-way acquisitions for infrastructure. We have been replacing vehicles under the enterprise program that we had entered into an agreement with. There's also an increase in water testing, increase in engineering services for our water master plan, which is tied back to the comprehensive plan implementation IF6. We also have an increase to capital outlay greater than $5,000 for water tank purchase. This was approved by City Council on July 5th, 2023. Even though it was approved by Council in July, unfortunately, the project is carrying over into the next year. And so that money is also going to just move forward. The difference is going to move forward until the project's completed. For the wastewater department, we have an anticipated increase of 16% to the health insurance cost. Repairs to the pump house. This is the pump house is located behind the police department on that same property. Increase to engineering services for the I&I program phase 2 and the wastewater master programs, which is referenced in comprehensive plan implementation IF19. And those are the high level highlights for each of the departments. The next slide is a financial summary of all your funds. So you have our general fund, debt service, special revenue, utility for which incorporates water and wastewater, and then to the far right you have your total funds. Our debt service, which is our interest and sinking fund, payments for the year is $4,188,697,000. Any questions so far? Nope. Okay. This next slide is a verbiage from our city charter, Article 3, Section 8.05 of the Manor City Charter. Do you want me to read it? No? Okay. I'll read it, but The next slide is a general fund revenue summary. And this gives you a high level of what the revenues are for each department. Revenues are generally a function of certain rates applied to specific quantifiable amounts such as assessed property values, volumes of water use, a percentage of gross revenue, which are franchises fees, etc. The chart summarizes estimated revenue for the general fund by major funding categories. This is followed by a more detailed look in revenue by general category. So for admin, we have taxes, miscellaneous income, permits, licenses, and other revenue. For the street departments, we have miscellaneous, sanitation charges, development services, miscellaneous charges, as well as permits and licenses, court, miscellaneous and court fees, police miscellaneous with police charges and fees, and which last year, pardon me, as of August 11th, we'd already collected $17,521,778 out of the $17,273,649 that were projected. So we've collected more than what we had anticipated. The next slide is your general fund expenditure summary. A summary of expenditures is included for each department. Expenditures are grouped into the following categories. These categories apply to the general fund. They're broken out with personnel, operating, repairs and maintenance, contracted services, and debt service. So for administration, we are, again, it does include the 3% cost of living, and it does include the adjustments that was approved by council for the pay scale study, and includes the increase of the 16% for the health insurance cost. All the departments listed, finance, the next department does have the meter tech position that is being requested for this year. When the meter tech originally started, we had roughly about 2,500 accounts, and we're about 4,200 now, if not more. And so it's getting harder for him to be able to do the meter readings and to go in and do the shutoffs and disconnects and still continue with the new setting the new meters into the ground. So he's needing a little bit of help now. For the street department, they're just the two increases as stated, and which was for the $100,000 for street repair and the $138,000 for the stormwater master plan. The vehicles that are still being swapped out, I think we still have 4 more to go in that department, and then the swap out will be complete. For development services, there is there's a land planning use for fiscal analysis, increase in contracted services, and also the addition for 2 vehicles for the position that has not been filled yet, and we're still swapping out vehicles for the meter tech, and then not meter tech, so sorry, code enforcement, and then the online interactive public portal for city mapping. For the Parks Department, as stated, we increased the cemetery repairs and maintenance, which was approved by council, and that will still carry over into next year, and increase into the engineering services and contracted services. And then I believe the Parks Department will come back with, Parks Committee will come back with a recommendation for a splash pad and an inclusive park. For court, there really hasn't been, the only change was 16% to the health insurance cost, the cost of living, and then the adjustments for the pay scale study. On the next slide, for the police department, the repairs to the police department building is for roofing and flooring, if I'm not mistaken, on there. And then the 15% increase to Travis County dispatching services, and then the then the line for for our K9 unit. That increase was for $80,000 for the K9 unit, and for CTRS was $60,000 for, and that's the SWAT. And those two were the really the highlight of that increase for the budget. For the next department is information technology. For IT, it's the anticipated 16% for the health insurance, and the vehicle swap out for the existing vehicle for a newer SUV, and then the cost of living, as well as the pay scale adjustments. For the next slide is for economic development. We did do the increase for the health insurance, and then the 18% for the Greenview Development Agreement, and that consists of a payback for sales tax and also a payback for a portion of the ad valorem rate. We have just completed year 7. We still have 3 more years, and then we'll be complete with our obligation. And also increase to contracted services. As you may recall, their budget went from $3,000, and the increase went to $356,000, and that was for contracted services for the downtown strategic plan, tourist consulting, downtown facade grant program incentive, downtown infrastructure short-term incentive, and others. The next department is for human services. The only real major increase for human resources was for the marketing materials. Once we have completed the branding and council approves that branding, then we will go ahead and start buying all sorts of swag. The next department is community development services. As y'all know, Debbie's no longer with us, and that position is still currently unfilled. So I really didn't touch it. When we did our workshop, there was a question about, there was a decrease that it wasn't adding up for the mayor. And that's because $50,000 of it was removed, and that was for sesquicentennial expenses. So I had removed that $50,000 altogether, and then then there was also longevity pay that was not going to be paid anymore for any employee. So that was the difference in there. It was a hidden column on my side, so when it printed, didn't see that portion of it, but wanted to clarify that that's where the math was. Any questions on any of these slides so far? And for those in the audience and those for at home, this is available on the website. So if you go, you just click it, and you'll be able to see everything that I'm showing here, and then the actual workshop book that y'all have. This is also available on the website, or I will be gladly to print it out for you. So the next fund is going to be our utility fund. This is a revenue summary slide. This is for all of our water and wastewater rates. As council may recall, we did approve a new water wastewater rate back in May, I believe it was May, that has not gone into effect yet. We will be coming back to council on the 20th with an updated fee schedule, just to give an update on all our other fees that need to be updated. So we're just going to do it all in one swoop. So with that being said, so the projected revenue for water is $4,505,107. And so this shows as 7%. This is including the 7% increase that council approved. And also for your wastewater, same thing. It does include 7% increase into the wastewater fees. On the next slide is your expenditure summary. The utility fund funds and pays for public works, water, and wastewater. And just like the revenue, just like the general fund, it also, oh, thank you. I know I'm choking. Just like the general fund, it encompasses personnel, operating, repairs and maintenance, contracted services, and debt service as well. So for their expenditures, just like the general fund, they have personnel, operating, repairs and maintenance, and contracted services. Water will have the same. The only difference with water and wastewater, unlike public works, is the debt service is assigned to water and to wastewater. And that's covered in the water and wastewater rate study that was done. There's a portion of that that goes into there to help fund it, to help pay that debt off. Any questions? You can ask Ann. I'm good. And so like the other departments, for Public Works, they have an anticipated increase of 16%. They are requesting 2 new positions that would be they will be construction inspectors. There is an increase to repair the Miller building, roof and floor repair. And also, again, we swapped out 3 of their vehicles, actually two vehicles in this new year with the new enterprise program that we had entered into. And unfortunately, with the storm that happened 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago, the brand new one got pummeled by a rooftop that came off and landed on the truck. So we've had our first casualty already on the new fleet. And then moving on to for the water department, they have an anticipated increase to the health insurance, increase of right-of-way acquisitions for infrastructure, increase to water testing, increase to engineering services for the water master plan, and then again the water tank purchase that was approved by council on July 5th, which was the emergency purchase of that. And again, that'll carry over, and that is reflected on page 31 of the proposed budget. That's highlighted in red just so that y'all can see where that line item is. And on to for the wastewater, we have the 3 requested positions for a crewman, the 16% on the health insurance, repairs to the pump house, and increase of engineering services for the I&I program phase 2. And again, for the wastewater master programs plan. This next slide is for our debt service fund. This is where all of our bonds, and tax notes that we go after, this is exactly where it gets paid out of. So this is the top portion of the slide is the revenue, which is the taxes of money coming in. And the bottom part of the slide is the actual expenditures of what we're actually paying. So as you can see, there's an $11,000 difference, which is in our favor. So then that just gets carried over, and then we will apply that when that comes in. We'll apply that to next year's to go ahead and it should have minimal impact on trying to lower the tax rate. Our special reserve fund. This consists of what I refer to as HOT, which is hotel occupancy tax, and then the TERS fund, improvement tax. Yeah, that one. The tax improvement increment reinvestment zone. Yeah. So this year I had to include that one this year because this has been the first year that we've actually had activity in the TERS. And so this year we actually had to, were able to receive funds that we were able to transfer out of the general fund into our first TERS fund. And that was $128,000. It's a move in the right direction. And so every year we should see something from that report given to us by the state comptroller's office. They monitor all of that. And so they're able to send that report to tell us exactly how we're doing. And I believe that'll be covered in the year wrap up, the yearly report that P3 Works will come and present to council. And then HOT funds. Funds from this source are collected from lodging establishments located in the city and its ETJ that offers rooms for rent daily. Revenue from this source is to be used for advertising and promotional programs to attract tourists, historical restoration and preservation, directional signage to the public sites and attractions frequently visited by tourists, the construction, maintenance, and operation of a convention or visitor center, certain transportation systems serving tourists and hotel guests, encouragement and promotion of the arts, facilities and personnel for the registration of convention delegates. Any questions on those? So there is a budget of $100,000 for expenditures from the special reserve HOT funds, and so far as of year to date, they have utilized $66,626. The next slide is a special reserve impact fund summary. This is for water and wastewater impact fees. Impact fees are mechanisms authorized by the local government code and used by cities to build up reserves for future costs of extending water and wastewater facilities to new development and provide for the expansion of treatment facilities that are needed because of the addition of new users. The top part is for the revenue, and then is the revenue portion for water and for wastewater. The bottom part of the slide is for expenditures relating to water and to wastewater. They can be used for contracted services, engineering services mainly, and then repair and maintenance for any vendors. And that's usually maintained between with Matt, and it's a joint venture between GBA and Matt Woodard, Public Works Director. Any question on that slide? This next slide are all our city-sponsored events for the upcoming fiscal year. October, we kick it off with Manor Night at the Park. In November, Arbor Day. December, our holidays in the park. January, our Martin Luther King Day. February, we have a Black History Luncheon. In April, an Easter Egg Dash. In June, we offer the Juneteenth celebration. July, 4th of July fireworks show. September this year, this will be our first to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Our city partnered events are in are with in May is Maynard-Palooza. It's usually the first weekend in May. Partnered with Friends of Maynard Parks. In November, Veterans Day Service, which is partnered with the Maynard Chamber of Commerce. And that's a thank you. I'm free to answer any questions y'all may have, or comments or suggestions.
I
Thanks,
have one,
Lydia.
Lydia.
No, go ahead.
I have one, and I guess it was just for the remaining, the events that are going to be our first year events, such as the Hispanic Heritage Month. Is that already in the budget of what we have, like the as of date from the ones that we received? I guess with the hot fund.
We're not for that specific one. We're not utilizing any hot funds, and to the best of my knowledge, the only ones that had they had qualified for hot funds is what we've historically used it for is for the artist, for the singers, for the bands. That's the only time and that's really the only qualifying thing that we've done that qualifies within the state statute. And then I believe we had and I could be like, it's been quite a bit of years when the art park was first conceived. The pickets and paint, most of that stuff was donated. I know we had talked about possibly utilizing hot funds because we worked with Maynard ISD to hand out the pickets and stuff, and you know, and it was a really good project that we had done, and I thought it was really successful. But you know, nothing lasts forever. Beauty fades. So I mean, you know, it is what it is.
Thank you.
Yes. And so part of that 66,000 for the hot funds that was utilized, when Miss Debbie was here, the advertising that went into Austin Monthly, Texas Roads and Highways, the billboards, all of that qualifies for hot funding. And so that's what she had utilized. She had utilized part of that budget for promoting the city of the events that we were having. The banners that you see that need to be replaced, I know, but all of that stuff qualifies for hot funds. You're promoting the city. If you know, TML stuff that we do, we're promoting people to come to, you know, play golf there, come to our festival. You know, we extend invitations all the time to the very many leaders, local and state level. You know, we're wanting people to come, you know, to our town because we feel that we have something to give and to offer, you know, so things of that nature completely qualify for hot funds. And that's what Debbie Sue would utilize that for. And again, paying for the artists and stuff that would come and play.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Thanks, Lydia.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Mr. Batter. Yes, sir. 2 minutes, sir.
2 minutes?
2 minutes.
My name is Robert Battle. Excuse me. First off, the organization chart is wrong. Planning and zoning is a commission. It's not a board. It's not under this direct supervision of the council. It should be its own to the side, parallel. They have their own agenda, they should, and their own secretary. Don't you wish we could have these presentations at the home live stream? That would be really nice, wouldn't it? The real problem with the budget is that all we get to see is the top level. That's why no one asks any questions, because they don't really know what's in there. We need to see the second level. Isn't that obvious? There's $15 million of development funds that needs to be spent to buy back the area by the cemetery, and also to buy back the land by the Lions Club. Those are not historic developments, and I find it really ridiculous that you keep referring to the comprehensive plan, which is a bunch of BS and lies, and it's never been properly vetted or even proofread.
1 minute, sir.
The park funds, speaking of which, I think a third of those should go to fixing the picket fence and a shade structure. 2/3 should be hot funds. There is no way on earth we should spend $600,000 for a splash pad. That is utterly ridiculous waste of money until the parks are full of things for everybody to do all over town. I'd like you to stop using the word downtown, please. We don't have a downtown. That's a 3-block strip in the middle of a neighborhood. I wasn't quite sure, and I would appreciate an answer if you don't mind on how much is the hot funds available now? How much is the park funds available now? And also, I apologize for not knowing the exact number, but it seemed like there was an entry for $300,000 for community activities and stuff. Only $7,000 was spent. I'd like to know what department's in charge of that, and what's the problem with coming up with ideas to spend some of that money? This whole idea of using money to advertise.
Time's up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, do we have a motion?
Answer to those questions at all?
No, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not at this time, sir. Do we have a motion for public hearing? Item number 2.
I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing on item number 2.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Weir. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to consent agenda. All of the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless requested by the mayor or a council member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Item number 3, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve the city council minutes. Do I have a motion? Oh,
Mayor Pro Tem, you read all the captions.
all of them. Okay. Number 4, consideration, discussion, and possible action on 1.019 acre drainage easement for Transpac Manor Facility, LLC. Number 5, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a sidewalk escrow agreement with Transpac Manor Facility, LLC. And number 6, second and final reading, consideration, discussion, and possible action on specific use permit for medical clinic located at the southwest corner of US Highway 290 and Gregg Manor Road, Manor, Texas.
You have one more, number 7.
Second and final reading, consideration, discussion, and possible action on an ordinance rezoning one lot on 0.132 acres more or less and being located at 209 North Lexington Street, Manor, Texas, from single-family suburban to neighborhood business. Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as read.
Motion made by Councilmember Amasqua. Second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wallace. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Did you vote, Deja? Can you redo the vote, please?
Oh, all in favor? All opposed? That's 5
Thank
to
you.
1. We will move now to regular agenda. Number 8, reconsideration of the vote on an ordinance levying ad valorem taxes for the use and support of the municipal government of the city of Manor for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2023 and ending September 30th, 2024.
Good evening. Before you, you have We're asking for reconsideration to reconsider the tax rate. It was brought to my attention that it needed to have a 5-2 vote in order for it to be approved. So we're requesting to set a new public hearing date for September 20th. Right? Am I right? Oh, first vote on reconsideration.
You said September 20th?
Yes. That's going to be item number 9. I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem, in the backup, your summary form shows the motion, how it needs to be read. This item is only to reconsider the item. The next agenda item will be setting the public hearing.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I move to reconsider ordinance number 716, an ordinance levying ad valorem taxes for the use and support of the municipal government of the city of Manor for the fiscal year October 1st, 2023, and ending September 30th, 2024.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Wallace. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 9, consideration, discussion, and possible action on setting a public hearing for the FY 2023-2024 proposed property tax rate of the city of Manor.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, we're requesting for a September 20th public hearing date at 7 p.m.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we set a public hearing date of September 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. for the fiscal year 2023-24 proposed property tax rate.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Amasqua. Any questions to the motion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 10, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding compensation and benefits for city council members.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So it has been brought to staff's attention about a possible compensation consideration for City Council with examples from other cities that are currently going through growing pains as we are, knowing that the City of Manor is in a crucial period of incredible opportunities for economic development, arts, education, culture. Manor is home to more than 20,000 residents and is poised to be see an explosive growth over the next decade. So leading into more active participation by our council members. So we are presenting tonight some of the 2022-2023 compensation and benefits from surrounding cities that we used in our compensation study. I've also attached some new ones that are being updated currently. So Taylor has updated they're going through a process as well for updating their council compensation through a ad hoc committee. And Pflugerville at this time is asking for a special election for charter review. So we wanted to bring this to the table and see what you thought, how we wanted to go about.
Mayor Council, again, like we've done research on this for you, and we wanted to bring it back and get direction, and that would be the request we asked from you tonight to give us direction on moving forward with this item.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that City Council establishes an ad hoc committee to evaluate compensation and benefits for City Council members.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Do I have a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Moreno. Any questions to the motion? I do want to add that, also as well for this committee, if each council member could provide 2 Maynard citizens, names and provide them to city secretary, via email, so that we can start creating this committee. I'm gonna give it about a week and we'll take it from that point on. Again, we really just need 1 from each council member, but council members, if you would just provide 2 as a backup. And again, I'm gonna give it till September 11th, if you will provide those names to Uvia. Okay? Do I have any other questions or comments for Tracy? No questions? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 11, consideration, discussion, and possible action on amending the on-call service contract for consulting services with Raptelis.
Before you have a on-call, it's really an amendment to the already existing on-call service contract that we have with Raptelis. Raptelis does the water and wastewater rate study. They are also assisting us with the stormwater study as well. So after additional work that was being thrown onto us with the evaluation of our current water contract, we saw ourselves going into the need for additional funding to complete the report. And so the contract before you is to amend the on-call service, and I believe it's an increase of $39,000. Is it 39,000 or is it 48,000? Okay. $30,000, I believe, was for the water, wastewater, and then $18,000 was for the stormwater.
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I would add that with us having this consultant working with our team, save a significant amount of money when we start looking at renewing our contract. And so I want to bring that to the community's attention that their level of professionalism, their level and experience allowed us to see some things with the contract that required us to pause and really evaluate it. Right now, our current water situation, we have service until 2039 with that one contract. And if we were to renew that contract, we would have been tens of millions would have been spent without us having a really solid plan. So I want to say the money spent on this 48,000 to the billions we would have been committed to is something that the public need to know that you have these contractors to help us, and in this case they really helped us when it came down to evaluating our options. They wanted to make sure this change request to amend their agreement is not taken lightly but taken seriously, that the citizens can look back and say we did the right thing working with this group initially.
Thanks. Do we have a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the amendment to the on-call service contract for consulting services with Raptelis.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Alasqua. Any questions to the motion? Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 12, consideration, discussion, and possible action on city-owned equipment and fleet to be auctioned and or disposed of.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Staff is requesting to get rid and auction off dispose of the equipment that we're not using in the trucks and vehicles that are unoperable. Pretty much. And we do have qualified vendors, as with IT and such. You have to be CJIS qualified and certified in order to destroy anything from PD. So we do have vendors online.
Is there a motion on the floor?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the city-owned equipment and fleet to be auctioned off and or disposed of.
Motion made by Councilmember Amezquita. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Are there any questions to the motion?
I have one question. If it is not auctioned, but it is still usable, not worth being disposed of, is it possible that it would be donated or something, or is there any other option where it could go to?
As far as a vehicle, I'd have to check into that. I don't know if we can
Because it needs to go
Yeah.
through
the same process. Yes.
process.
Mhm.
Okay.
Where do they get auctioned off at?
We have Gov Deals that was approved back in 2017, I believe. We haven't done it in a minute, so it's been 2017, I believe, is when the last time we've actually had to auction. Usually, we're keeping them as long as we can. Now we're having the option with Enterprise to actually go through and maintain and keep the fleet that we need, and then auction off the ones that I have too many miles on it, especially like PD. They can't after so many 100,000 miles, we've got to recycle them out. They're running 24/7.
Any more questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 13, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a change order to the construction contract for the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen Lift Station Expansion Project.
Howdy, I'm Tyler Shows. I'm one of the city engineers with GBA, and I'm going to discuss the consideration, discussion, and possible actions to approve a change order to the construction contract for the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen Lift Station Expansion Project. I'm going to read over the memorandum, provide some background summary of the change orders. For the first item, it was per the city's request. We request a quote from the contractor for a package generator set at the Presidential Glen Lift Station. When this project originally went out for bid, it was not in the scope of work to replace the existing genset on site. After the bid, it became aware that the existing genset was failing and was needing to be replaced. The city was interested in including this genset replacement along with the Presidential Glen Lift Station expansion. And the quote we received for the additional genset package, not including the cost for the installation, was $105,145.19. This is a recommended operational addition for the lift station compared to the Bell Farms. This is a recommended operational addition for the lift station compared to the Bell Farms lift station package, which totaled to be $100,400. So it's comparable because they're pretty similar prices. And the second item is for the request is made for furnishing and the installation of HVAC and the control panels. The proposed control panels will have VFDs inside of them. Based on this, an AC unit is required to cool down the unit. This will prevent the unit from tripping and overheating and excessive temperatures. Without the HVAC/AC unit, this will cause the new equipment to not perform as requested under the temperatures expected in the hot Texas summer. HVAC will be installed in both Presidential Glen and Bell Farms lift station, and the quote we received was $18,218.39. Again, this is a reasonable price compared to previous projects. The final item is a change order request is made for the cancellation cost for the long lead time generator package at the Bell Farms lift station. Originally, the lead time for the generator package at the Bell Farms station was 77 weeks. With this cancellation, an alternate generator can be acquired with a lead time of only 8 weeks, cutting down the overall project schedule and getting the lift station online with the new genset installation. And the cancellation fee is $6,818.39. With all three of these items, the total came down to $130,181.97, which will increase the original contract price by 8%. It also should be known that a field order was also made, which decreased the overall contract price by 3%. Just want to have you guys know that. And this will be finalized at the end of the project. So it is the city staff recommendation that the city council approve change order number 1 to the construction contract for the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen lift station expansion project with JM Pipeline in the amount of $130,181.97. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Show. We appreciate that. Is there a motion? Is there a motion for number 13?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the change order number 1 to the construction contract for the Bell Farms and Presidential Glen Lift Station Expansion Project with JM Pipeline in the amount of $130,181.97.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Weir. Any questions to the motion?
I have a question. And maybe it's just for clarification of understanding the cost that is associated with canceling instead of, and so, but I think the change order 1 is still going to include the Bell Farms lift station. Am I mixing it up completely?
So with the cancellation of the long lead generator, it cancels the one that's at 77 weeks because we put a hold on it. But we have that replaced with the one we can get within 8 weeks. So the Bell Farms will still get a new gen set with it.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 14, consideration, discussion, and possible action on the first reading of an ordinance amending the Shadow Glen Plan Unit Development and being located at the intersection of Lexington Street and US Highway 290, as well as Shadow Glen Boulevard and US Highway 290, Maynard, Texas. That item will be moved to October 18th.
Mayor, Council, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone the first reading of the ordinance to the October 18th, 2023 regular council meeting.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Amasqua. Any questions to the motion? Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 15, consideration, discussion, and possible action on the third amendment to the development agreement under section 43.035 Texas Local Government Code with Jefferson Triangle Marine LP.
Evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So this amendment, it's just to add that the property is decertifying from Manville's water service area, and they'll be transferring to Mainers.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that the City Council approve the third amendment to the development agreement under section 43.035 Texas Local Government Code with Jefferson Triangle Marine LP.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Councilmember Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 16, consideration, discussion, and possible action on a development agreement establishing development standards for the St. Joseph Catholic Church development.
Sure. So this agreement permits the church to use some used portable buildings as temporary classrooms until such times they can raise funds to build a permanent structure. Our code in one place prevents moving structures that have been previously occupied and constructed outside the city into the city. And so if they were new portables, they would be actually permitted, but because they're used and from outside the city, they can't be moved into the city. And then also within our architectural requirements, accessory structures like a portable building, if it were permitted, is supposed to be architecturally consistent with the primary structure. So that usually would mean, you know, the detailing and potentially the building materials, if that's what we can regulate. And here, since they're, you know, used portable buildings, they're pretty limited in what they can do to make them architecturally consistent. And so this is basically saying if they paint them to match the color of the primary structure, that will just meet that qualification. And then lastly, this puts a time or a term on the agreement of 7 years. We had originally discussed 3, they requested 10, and then we kind of got together and worked on 7. So they said that should be sufficient time for them to raise the funds for a permanent structure.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve a development agreement establishing development standards for the St. Joseph Catholic Church development.
Motion made by Councilmember Ramasqua. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Weir. Any questions to the motion?
Is there a time limit when you would want them to request to extend the term of the agreement if they don't see that they can meet those 7 years?
I mean, preferably we would do it a month or 2 before the term expires, but the agreement doesn't stipulate that they have to contact us by a certain time in order to extend it. And an extension is also not part of the agreement, so that would be at the discretion of council at the time if they wanted to do another term or modify the terms.
And it would need to be fully developed by then within that time, or just starting that construction during those within 7 years?
That's a good consideration. That would be something that the council at the time can consider. So if they have, plans in review or something like that, it's like you can determine like, okay, they're, it's not built yet, but plans are submitted to us for review for that structure. So the portables won't be moved at that time, but they would be soon, and so maybe give another 1-year extension. So it's really just 7 years from now, if they're still there, you can determine the situation, determine if it's necessary to extend it or not.
But they definitely have to be removed by the 7th year.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. There aren't penalties within the agreement. You may recall we did a similar one with Compass Rose. They actually had some monetary penalties in theirs, or they had to put up an escrow or that we wouldn't return. It was basically a cost for us to remove them. That's not part of this one. So if they were still there, it would just sort of be, general code violations that would then go to court essentially. But similar to if anyone placed an accessory structure on their property that didn't meet code requirements. But I would presume that since there could be this development agreement approved, 7 years from now, then that would be considered and either extended or modified, or hopefully not necessary.
Thanks.
At what point are you checking on that progress? Like, is there a halfway mark to see where they stand so that things aren't forgotten, their expiration date is not forgotten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can set some reminders that maybe like 5 years from now or something. Kind of check in with them and just be like, hey, just a reminder, you have this thing coming up in 2 years. Like, how's that going? Which would be good because if they are anywhere near, being able to have the funding for the building, that maybe you start discussions a lot earlier and find a solution versus waiting until a month or two beforehand and someone remembers like we had that agreement. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have they already been painted?
I'm not sure. They said they could do additional like landscaping and screening on it, but we just said if as long as you paint them, you don't have to do anything that would be removed later when the permanent structure's put in. So
Any more questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 17, consideration, discussion, and possible action to grant members of the Manor Arts Council to restore portions of the Manor Art Park picket fence.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. We're looking for consider possible action to granting members of the Manor Arts Council to restore portions of the Manor Art Park picket fence. The fence is kind of starting to fade, so they're wanting to volunteer to come in and refurbish and repaint. Chroma Paint has agreed to fund all the painting. The only thing that the city would need to do is later on, after they get through doing the refurbishing and painting, is that we do the chroma sealant, which I assume that's going to be about $200 or $300. So we're wanting to seek City Council approval to authorize the Public Works Parks Division to coordinate with the Manor Arts Council to restore and refurbish the Manor Art Park picket fence.
Is there a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve and authorize the Public Works Parks Division to coordinate with the Manor Arts Council to restore and refurbish the Manor Arts Park picket fences.
Motion made by Councilmember Wallace. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Almasqua. Are there any questions to the motion?
So what will the financial obligation be if the MAC does oversee it?
If they were, I think they were quoted. Are you talking about what the Chroma is donating, or are you asking for
Well, I
what
just was
city?
reading where the first initial indications of cost to refurbish it were $75,000 to $90,000.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now,
Okay, sure. That I think that was a quote to if that were going to occur the cost, but the Chroma has worked with the Manor Arts Council to donate that. Correct?
I can answer questions if you'd like. I'd like to answer questions. We began this project pre-COVID.
Can you state your name as well?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a little anesthesia left in me, so here goes. Tom Bolt, and I am the chair of the Manor Arts Council. Pre-COVID, we had started to look at the condition of the pickets and noticed some deterioration. Of course, during COVID, nobody did anything. And as things began to return to normal, we realized that in order to save these fences or these pickets, that something would need to be done. And Dory West called Chroma Paints and did a lot of back and forth on what might have happened. And what we came up with is that it may have not had a sealer put on it. We can't verify that it did or didn't. Chroma provided an estimate to do a restoration in the high tens of thousands. We took that to mean 75 to 90. We didn't want to bring that to council because it just seemed ridiculous that that would be a cost to do this when we had the volunteers who wanted to go out. We will not repaint anyone's pickets that don't want us to. Most of you probably remember that students at the junior high and high school did these. I'm not sure we could find them anymore, and I know that one of them is deceased. So we want to preserve what we can over there. What we want to do is set up volunteer hours for us on the weekends. It's too hot to do anything now. It's too hot to do anything when we first wanted to begin this at the beginning of summer. So it may not happen within a month. It may take 2 or 3 months, but we're going to work slowly to get from one end to the other. If you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Matt, what did you say the dollar amount for? You said this
The
was it
sealant,
sealant?
I'm predicting around $200 or $300 that we can use that chroma sealant.
Okay.
And if there is anybody that has those pickets, we can always take those pickets off and give that picture frame if they want. And we can replace that with new pickets.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Now we're going to executive session. The City Council will now convene into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with authority contained in Section 551.071 Texas Government Code and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct to consult with legal counsel regarding 707 North Bastrop Street Short Form Final Plat, Section 551.071 and Section 551.087 Texas Government Code, and to deliberate on the acquisition of real property, and Section 551.071 and 551.087 Texas Government Code, excuse me, and Section 1.05 Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct to consult with legal counsel regarding intricate Sorry. The city council will now reconvene into open session pursuant to the provisions of chapter 551 Texas Government Code and take action, if any, on items discussed during the closed executive session. Number 18, reconsideration of the vote on a short form final plat for one lot on 0.23 acres, more or less, and being located at 707 Bastrop Street, Maynard, Texas, with variances to allow for 40 feet lot width, 20 feet front setback, 5-foot side setbacks, and 10-foot rear setback, and a depth to width ratio of 6.25 and 1. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the reconsideration of the short form final plat for one lot on 0.23 acres more or less and being located at 707 Bastrop Street, Maynard, Texas, with variances to allow for 40-foot lot width, 20-foot front setback, 5-foot side setback, and 10-foot rear setbacks, and a depth to width ratio of 6.25 to 1.
Motion made by Councilmember Amasquale. Do I have a second?
All right, second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Are there any questions to the motion? Questions to the motion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 19, reconsideration, discussion, and possible action on a short form final plat for one lot on 0.23 acres, more or less, and being located at 707 Bastrop Street, Maynard, Texas, with variances to allow for 40-foot lot width, 20-foot front setback, 5-foot side setbacks, and 10-foot rear setback, and a depth to width ratio of 6.25 and 1. Do I have a motion?
Sorry. I was going to assume the applicant was here if you had any questions for her on this project, but I could also
How you doing, Ms. Chen? Thank you for
provide you any
being here.
information you'd like. So,
Yeah, I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
How many bedrooms will this be? How many bedrooms?
There's total of 3 bedrooms. Yeah. Last time got denied. The reason is I wasn't prepared. Did not show the markup. I think one of the council member did ask specifically. So this time more prepared. If you into the second page, that's the markup of the building, and you can see how the building sit compared to the whole lot. And the page 3rd is the dimension of the footprint. And we will have 3 bedrooms in the second floor, and the first floor is a living room and with 2 garages. So it's a standard dwelling. Total about 2,100 square foot.
Thank you for that rendering. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve a short form final plat for one lot on 0.23 acres, more or less, and being located at 707 Bastrop Street, Maynard, Texas, with variances to allow for 40 feet lot width, 20 feet front setback, 5 feet side setbacks, and 10 feet rear setbacks, and a depth to width ratio of 6.251.
Motion made by Councilmember Moreno. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilmember Weir. Are there any questions to the motion?
I have a question. Looking at the rings, is it still going to be 2 structures, with the garage in the middle?
No, just the one.
Okay. Will there be a fence in, I guess, around the property, or is that required at all? Or is it just the front fencing? Will that still remain?
Well, we will build according to city's fencing regulation. It's not required. Okay.
And you won't do that at all?
No.
In the front or the back, like how this one has the fence in the front?
We haven't into that discussion yet. The fencing will be erect according to city's rule, and if city is not required, then we won't build it.
Okay. And like the back where the garage is right now, is that going to remain flat, or will it have the same roofing as the, I guess, the living side?
I'm sorry, the front the garage. Or?
The part where the garage is, well, I guess from what I'm looking at. Oh, I'm looking at something completely different. Let me turn my page. Scott didn't tell me to look at this. I'm sorry. Thank you. That makes a big difference. Okay, let me say nicer things. That makes sense. So the fence in the back, that's not you, right? That's someone else. Or am I wrong again? Is that a fence, y'all? Okay, but we're not putting that there. Okay.
The back is an open field right now. So
Okay. Let it roll. And so is this considered a garage and then living above it?
yes,
Okay.
very
makes-
standard, a single family.
Okay. All right. But the living space is the 2,100 square feet, right?
Right.
Not including the garage. Okay. All right. Thank you. This is better.
Ms. Chen, what is that at the very top that makes it look like it's a 3-story?
Oh, it's just for lighting. It's architecture one too.
Okay.
Design something.
Okay.
Looks architecture appealing.
Okay.
You're correct. It looks really appealing.
Okay, are there any more questions?
I'm sorry, I do. It's just are we still gonna drive? Is it the door facing the street now?
Yes.
And from the side? Okay. That's what.
Yeah. The second page you see it is exactly where you see it from Bastrop. So you drive through it, you see that building.
Any more questions? No questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
This concludes our city council meeting. It is now 9:39. This meeting is adjourned.